Okay, looks like there is some drama going on with the March for Australia stuff that has come up in my come up in my YouTube feed. Something going on with the Brisbane coordinators and the overall March for Australia movement, and it's actually quite interesting. So I'm going to read through the March for Australia post. So this is what they've sort of publicly announced, and then we're going to look at ShallowChal's response and sort of find out what's going on. Because if you're sort of up to date with what I've been going through with the March for Australia stuff, I'm really trying to understand like what the movement is and what people are marching for and this sort of stuff. So it's interesting that there's something going on between March for Australia and some of the coordinators, which means that there might be a split off, or like there might be a bit of discontinuity between some of the protests and the marches. So it's really trying to understand what's going on here. So let's just jump straight into it. Okay. So March for Australia posted a day ago the following on Facebook. So March for Australia official announcement. The crew at March for Australia feel it's necessary to address recent developments regarding Brisbane organisers breaking away from the national organisation under the new name Australia Marches. At our previous two events, there were many complaints at the Brisbane coming across more like a campaign event for Conservative politicians rather than what the MFA is supposed to be, a grassroots movement expressing popular dissatisfaction with the political establishment on the left and the right over mass immigration. Now, I can sort of understand where they're coming from here, because probably more specifically about ShallowChal's sort of involved more. He started introducing things regarding like Trump and patriotism and more like conservative kind of values in a way that I can kind of understand that like the MFA. I can just understand what they sort of mean here by left and right, because the whole introducing the Trump thing does sort of introduce a very right side of it, instead of like just over mass immigration as a whole, if that makes sense. So I can kind of understand where that's going, and I can understand that. So we wanted these marches to be by the people, for the people. However, the Conservative establishment who initially went against the rally are now trying to capture it and water down its message to turn it into a campaign vehicle. So when I did the early sort of, or probably mostly the previous video I did, I can really understand like what they're sort of saying, because it's trying to attack the politics behind it, where I don't think, after reading this, I don't think that's sort of like, it doesn't want any political sort of involvement in it. It's strictly by the people, for the people. So involving like conservative movements and stuff like that, like I can kind of understand where it's coming from. This is where I've like always sort of said I'm really having troubles understanding what the actual message is behind it all, because there is like some conflicts around it all. March for Australia will still be organising nationally for the next Australia Day celebration, with the intent of restoring national pride on our national holiday, not facilitating the political campaigns of Zionists and lukewarms. So even like that's using the word Zionist and stuff, like I guess we're starting to become more like, it's having like a bit of an ideological influence here, instead of political campaigns. Because I would sort of see like a political campaign, like talking about policies, strictly involving government. Like you saw like government officials there, like Bob Katter and pulling hands and stuff like that. So I can understand where this is coming from, and then differently where the Zionists, because this is more like a ideological sort of driven narrative, right? However, it has come to our attention that the Brisbane organisers ShallowChal and Bender, not too sure what Bender is, have refused our demands that they remain uncompromising on messaging rather than bending over backwards to accommodate politicians. Well, that's a claim. They've now created a completely new website. Oh, wow. While still using our official branding, and have informed us that they have gone independent. Okay, so that kind of to me reads like as if they, are trying to do something different, which is fair enough, because I feel like just from looking at Scott Challens' previous videos, this kind of like Zionists and lukewarms, that doesn't really resonate. Like for me, I don't think that sort of, he doesn't really use those terms, and it is more of a political movement. And I definitely was going down the understanding that it was more of a conservative and right wing movement, patriotism, in bringing in Trump's name and that sort of stuff. Like I was definitely under the impression initially that that is kind of what March for Australia was. But when I read stuff like this, it leads me to think that March for Australia was more about the ideological sort of perspective. So this is really painting a picture of it all now. And so it kind of sounds like it's best that they do sort of go down their own ways. But let's keep going. Despite only launching it yesterday, it says 2 days ago, the website is months old, suggesting that this is the accumulation of some type of conspiracy. I don't like that. That's a bit of a stretch. I mean, like, whenever you do anything, you kind of get the website name. I would say that you probably get multiple website names, just because you might not know what you're going to call it. It might not be available, that sort of stuff. Scott Challens is a business person too, so I think he's probably just applying his same methods into this. So I dare say he's probably got multiple names, probably done multiple different things, and he's probably just going to see what sticks. So throwing the word conspiracy in there and like suggesting that there's combination and stuff like that, like that's meh. Everyone at March for Australia is very disappointed to hear of these developments. I don't know about that, especially considering the fact that the same people behind it are the ones who presented themselves as donors and attempted to buy influence over the national organisation. We, of course, rejected their advances. I wouldn't say everyone's very disappointed. Like, I mean, like I went through like all of my my comments with you guys. It's a lot of people are very, very supportive of what Scott Challens is kind of saying. I'd say it's even more so behind his movement, or like we'll separate him for now, just for the argument of this video. But I would say that people are probably more aligned with what he's saying more than going down an ideological path. Like Australians, like how do I sort of word this? Like trying to restore like native Australians, and it's all about like completely closing Australia off so we can, Australia is for Australians and that sort of stuff. Whereas I think Scott Challens is more like, let's control migration. I think more people are sort of along the lines of that. I dare say It seems that although they couldn't buy us all, unfortunately, they could buy Brisbane. Okay, so they seem to think that Brisbane's been paid off, which is fair enough. They've probably seen all the politicians and stuff like that, but I don't think that's the case at all. One of the main points of contention between the rest of our organisers and Brisbane's was their reluctance to talk about ethnicity or racial demographics. Very, very important there. I think, I actually did sort of notice a difference between like the Melbourne. Maybe that's why the Melbourne ones are a little bit more radical to a degree. Well, the first ones were anyway. But obviously they had the neo-Nazis there. They had the anti-racisms there that were all like contributing to the violence and stuff like that. Whereas Brisbane's was pretty, from my understanding, it was a lot more cruisy. But it's because they probably didn't have this sort of. I don't know what you guys think, but if you think that this had an influence, as is reflected in some of the messaging on their new website, this sentiment also revealed it's amongst many of the speakers chosen to give a speech in both those previous marches in Brisbane. So it's really putting a difference between what the movements are. March for Australia will still be organising nationally for the next year's Australia Day celebration. We must take Australia Day back for the Patriots, but the details surrounding the event are yet to be finalised, especially when considering the viability of organising in Brisbane. We hope everyone at Australia Marches considers the impact mass immigration has not only on the economics of the country, but on the people who built it. Okay. So Australia Marches is Scott Challens movement. Heritage matters. This is what I was sort of saying before. This is where I think the core of March for Australia is. This is what I originally thought until I started watching videos from Scott Challens. But obviously from this, I'm sort of starting to see that maybe his thing was different to what I originally sort of saw in Melbourne. So I can sort of see why there was a very, very interesting mix-up at the start. So heritage matters, identity matters, and demographics determine where our nation will head culturally. There is nothing wrong with wanting Australia to remain a majority Anglo-European country. Yeah. And refusing to talk about this aspect is a disservice to the movement and its supporters. There's nothing wrong with wanting Australia to remain a majority. Yeah, so this is like, now we're sort of starting to get into like heritage, culturally, majority Anglo-European country, disservice to this movement and its supporters. So this is kind of really sort of meaning to me that like, this is more of like, we want Australia to be, you know, these type of Australians. Whereas I think Scott Challens' Australian marches, it's just for ending mass immigration, but they still want immigration. They still want to, I'd say it's a bit more like progressive, and it's more politically driven, whereas this is a bit more ideologically driven. That's sort of what I'm getting. Yeah, I don't know what you guys think, if you agree with what I'm sort of saying there, but, you know, if you go on March for Australia will not compromise to meet the campaign requirements of cowardly politicians or the moderate whims of donors who want to cut our messaging. Jeez, okay. So yeah, this is getting a bit more of a picture now. So yeah, this is definitely like the fact that the politicians were there at Brisbane, you know, maybe marching down. I think that kind of doesn't support what March for Australia originally wanted. They didn't want the politicians there, but like, because then it kind of adds this like political sort of you know, movement to it. And then yeah, it kind of sounds like they believe that, yeah, like, you know, Brisbane was, you know, infiltrated with donors and stuff like that. Yeah. We exist to pressure them, not to be pressured by them. We don't deserve them. They're supported to serve us. Sorry, we don't serve them. They're supported to serve us. The conservative establishment doesn't have the answers, and this is usurpation. I don't know what that word is. In Brisbane will not be replicated elsewhere. Grassroots nationalism will be taking back Australia Day nationwide, regardless of Brisbane being hijacked by the forces. Oh, okay, so like, yeah, these last like few paragraphs really kind of puts the nail in the coffin. So yeah, I dare say that the March for Australia kind of sounds a whole lot more ideological, whereas Scott Challens is being perceived more as like conservatism, political, like becoming more of a political movement, which, yeah, it's fair enough. Like that's exactly how I sort of saw it. I mean, exactly what they're sort of saying there is pretty much how I interpret it from the start, because you know, I did see the Melbourne ones at first, and it kind of did seem very ideologically driven, because there was like neo-Nazis there was the anti-racism people there was more violence, and that's how it sort of appeared at first. But then people went nuts in the comments saying like, no, it's about this and this, and then I found that Brisbane's protest or march was very, very different, and it was more about like this conservative right-wing movement, and you know, then there was like Trump and like all this sort of stuff. Like, so it kind of really did sort of swing. So I can understand why they would, you know, want to sort of, you know, put this out there, and then obviously the website thing, and then it kind of looks like they are going to split. So let's keep that in mind, and we'll see what Scott had to say about that.
What an incredible 24 hours of drama that's been. Let's answer the what an incredible 24 hours of drama that's been. Let's answer the 5 things that you all need to know about Queensland. One of the conditions of my involvement in March for Australia was no Nazis. Prior to August 31 and prior to October 19th, our group up here in Queensland, the organisers for Queensland, all agreed on the same thing: no Nazis. So we didn't let...
Good that he's sort of like, he's been very, very firm with, yeah, basically he doesn't want this sort of stuff, which is, you know, driving the ideology. It's all about, you know, something different,
them speak at both events, and we've always stuck true to that: no Nazis. Both the August 31 and the October 19th event were fully funded by the Queensland organisers that I've previously listed in my X posts. We funded it at different levels, but we all contributed the money, nobody else. But you need to remember that if you're going to build a movement and you're going to make something big, you're always going to want to try and draw people to it that have resources. To be clear, Clive Palmer, Gerard Rennick and One Nation have made zero financial contributions to anything that's happened in Queensland, and have had zero influence over it. Everybody's going, what's next? We can't just keep marching.
Yeah, so it looks like he's kind of been very, very firm that, you know, their accusation that they were funded or donors by right-wing politicians. Yeah, I guess, you know, I believe that.
There's got to be something else that happens. We really struggled to get the main organisers for MFA nationally to update their website or to put themselves in a position where they could grab people's registrations to help deal with the online threat that's coming for them, shutting us all down after December 10th. We launched our own website. We bought a bunch of domains just so that we owned the digital ground in case we got shut down. That was all that.
Yeah, that speaks to exactly what I said before about, Scott Challens he's a very, I don't want to use the word very, but like he's a successful business person. He's had multiple businesses. So he's kind of like, this is probably his domain where he goes, okay, I've got this event. I know exactly how to get people, to sign up. He probably sees how important landing pages or registration pages, and he's seeing that there is a gap in the MFA's original website. So he's gone, I'm going to take this on board myself, and I'm going to do it like this. And when you compare, you've got to give it to him. When you compare the Brisbane protests with the Melbourne's one, it looks like a lot of more people had fun at that one. But I don't know if you've seen the MFA page, but I don't want to say it's crap, but like there's not much information on there. Like when I was actually looking at what is MFA all about, went to that page and I got bugger all. So I can understand what he's talking about here, and I can understand why he would be the type of personality to go, hey, I'm going to take this on board and I'm going to make it great. So yeah, makes sense.
Was about. Everyone thinks it's a hijack because we registered the domains in September, but that was just strategic thinking. We just got ahead of being able to own some stuff. The fact is, all of these domains weren't owned. Nobody owned it. So we snapped them up and went, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it.
I mean, you think about like Marching Australia, March for Australia. These are domain names that like, I'm surprised that they were even available, to be honest. So he's probably just seen an opportunity and just took it. It doesn't cost bugger all to own domain names, so it's only like a few dollars or something like that. So he's probably just gone, what's $30 to get 10 domain names.
Do that in September, prepping for what comes next. The website was launched prior to October 19th so we could get registrations, and it listed all the cities around Australia where the events were on with the MFA logo because we're promoting the MFA event for October 19th. After that statement came out yesterday and they disavowed Queensland from being a part of it anymore, we adjusted the website accordingly. We live in Queensland, one of the greatest states in Australia, but we have a unique set of problems here. We're the fastest growing capital city in the country right now. Everyone's moving here for a reason, and we are struggling. It's a really tough place to live. We have more problems than just mass immigration here. We've got huge cost of living pressures, infrastructure pressures. No one can get a house. We've got homeless people living in fucking parks everywhere. Now, we don't have...
Yeah, it's 100% right there. Like, a lot of people move in Queensland. I mean, I was one of them, but I moved in 2019, but yeah, it's gone absolutely nuts. Trying to get a house is absolutely nuts. Trying to get a rental is absolutely nuts. And yeah, there's been some places where homeless people typically camp and things like that. They've been quote unquote shut down, or like they've been kicked out of like those parks. So it's talking actual facts here.
Have an upper house in our parliament and our government in Queensland. We only have a lower house. So we don't have the opportunity for fringe political groups to try and swing influence here. You have to get the main body. We've worked to build an alliance of people so that we can try and influence the politics in Queensland. And for that, you need a bulk of people, not a fringe movement. Mass immigration is definitely the number one problem in Australia right now, and we are fully committed to getting that to end. We've also got a ton of things coming down the pipeline at us. Digital IDs, online censorship, and a whole raft of privacy and control laws that are coming through that need to be addressed as well. This movement's got bigger issues, and we listen to the...
Yeah, okay, so this is exactly where I think the core of where the split is, not the core, but like a big key contributor to like why the split is needed, is because we want to start talking about other issues besides, mass immigration, like digital ID, that sort of stuff. So MFA probably just doesn't want anything to do with that. So it makes sense why, I think they've got a big following. Scott Challens knows what he's doing with getting people together. So, this could be a good thing, but it's like, this is sort of what I was going on about. The other video is trying to get these messages, trying to get everyone on point with the same message is going to have the best effect, and being more bringing in your messaging together is going to be better. So if they reduce their sample size to say just the supporters in Queensland for Marching Australia, so Scott Challens' new one, everyone who joins that movement are going to all be saying the same message, instead of all the people from maybe Victoria and stuff like that may be more of the ideologically driven. I'm not saying that everyone from Victoria is like that. Probably majority, I'm not too sure, but like I think getting now there's a group who would all be saying the same message, I think is going to be it's 10 times more powerful than having all these other groups that are sort of more ideologically driven.
Hundreds and thousands of people that messaged us saying, you need to talk about this, you need to talk about this, you need to talk about that. But nobody wanted to talk about anything else other than just mass immigration, which we totally get, because mass immigration is a terrible problem. But that is the tip of the spear, and it's a big, long spear that's coming at us. Australia Day, the real big one. What's everyone thinking? Well, we're going to run a massive celebration of Australia on January the 26th. It's going to be huge. Massive barbecue, massive party, multiple bands, DJs, comedians, bring the family, park up, have a great time, sausages, steak, eggs, the whole lot. It's going to be one of the biggest celebrations in Australia. We told the MFA
Yeah, it just seems so.
guys, that this is what we're planning on doing. And like, that's never changed. In fact, we're going to invite the MFA guys to come down and have a great time with us, end mass immigration, and really put our stamp on Queensland.
I still think there's, there's probably just a quick video on that, but like, we're still lacking a lot of, specifics on how you want to tackle all of that. I think the furthest we've got is a 5-year ban. It's, need a bit more, but I guess we might be getting there.
This movement was never about us. It was never about organisers. It was never about egos. It was always about you. It was about protecting the Australian people. And we've rallied under the Australia First Patriots banner for a reason. So Australia Day, we're not taking any prisoners. We're going over the top, and we're going to make it the most amazing Australia Day event ever seen in this country. We need you to be a part of that with us. We'll come on this journey with us. We're not about division. We're about creating harmony. We're about taking our country back. We do this for Australia first. Got more questions? Chuck them in the comments. Answer tomorrow.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, bit of drama. Looks like there might be a split. Think it might be a good thing. What do you guys think? Put in the comments below if you think it would be a good thing. What do you think a bad thing? How do you think this is going to, end up? Which party would you be a part of, or are you sort of not for it altogether? I think personally, I think this could be a good thing for. It'll just make the messaging more clear, I think. Be able to separate those people who are very ideologically driven apart. It will separate them from the people who are just really concerned about how Australia is going in terms of mass immigration, like from a political point of view. I think it's good to sort of put those people in different categories. That way, people feel like they belong. So, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.